The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Here we go. What's happening? It's the T.N.F, the Thursday Night Forum, the night we hand the keys over to the passengers. And tonight I am joined by Connor Carr, top right, and the judge, as you all now know him. Judgment Day was here. It is still here. And Mark Kearney joined us below. How are we doing, gentlemen? You all right?
I'm doing very well, mate. Yourself?
I'm good. What a day for you, big man, eh, Mark? The big debut. Smashes 1,000 views in 12 hours, big man. You must be chuffed with that.
I'm very pleased with the viewing figures, mate. I wasn't expecting too much today. I just thought it'd be just the show kicking off, seeing how it went, to see if people enjoyed the format. It's quite a good way again, people a chance to ask some questions, not just to me, but to anybody like who maybe missed the live show, because a lot of your viewers maybe live in different countries, they work night shift, maybe some of them listen to the podcast on Spotify, etc. So it gives them a chance to get engaged. Not only that, but also the viewers who watch every show and go on the live chat gives them a wee chance to maybe pick up on a wee point we've made, ask a question about something that's topical, and just give me a wee chance to answer them. Give me a wee 15-20 minutes to just blabber shite and just see what comes out the other end of it. So I'm glad people enjoyed it, and just keep putting the questions into the community channel, and we'll pick out 3 ones, not necessarily the best ones, but just 3 questions that we feel like are topical or should be given a wee bit of airtime. So we appreciate the feedback so far, guys.
Nice one, Mark. Very well said, mate. Very well said. Connor, what's happening with you, big man? Another retro. Can you call that retro? Is that a retro Celtic number now? Is that how old we're fucking getting? I think it might be.
I mean, for you old duffers, maybe aye, but not for me. It's a bit closer to my age range, isn't it?
He started already, Mark. He started already.
Aye,
We might be getting joined by David Logue as well. Too many divas on this bus. I don't know who they get it for, but he shows up when he wants. So hopefully David will be joining us at some point. If not, it's okay. We'll get by the 3 of us. Obviously, before we get stuck in, all the usual, all that good stuff. Hit subscribe if you've not already. You know, didn't want your freezer getting defrosted by the judge, any of that, carry on. If you want to hit, what else is there? Like it, subscribe it, hit the bell button, share it, become a Voice of Us member if you want as well. That's enough of all that shite. We say it enough. Let's get talking about Celtic, and tonight there will be a bigger focus, as always, on a Thursday with you guys' point of views as well. Mark will be getting used to this format now, just fielding questions for the passengers. But that's what keeps us all sort of on the bus together, and that's how I like it. There's no us and them and all that carry on. No. We're all in this together. So we will be looking for you guys' input as well. A couple of things I'm sure we'll talk about first, and then we'll get the ball rolling with the forum. Connor, I'll come at you first. So there's a few talking points to get through. There was one that was particularly sort of grabbing your attention, shall we say, today. We had a wee chat earlier on in the old group chat, and I think you had some sort of concerns about the apparent story was that there was a bit of uproar from the supporters of the other side that basically they weren't getting allowed to put up a tifo, and that seemed to be causing a lot of a lot of anger and dismay, and the club's turning on us and all this sort of stuff. Then there's also other rumours that I know you want to talk about. Apparently there was weapons being stashed and all this sort of stuff. How much do you read into all that, and what's your take on it all?
I mean, I think, you can say that it could be the media stirring the pot, but I think considering what we've seen, over the past few games with, our players, our staff for the club aren't even safe. So there was a boy got bottled at the game just, a few days ago as the videos went viral, split his head right open. So, it's not out the realms of possibility. You know what I mean? It certainly is not.
No, definitely not. I mean, obviously there's a safety risk there as well, Colin. Do you know what I mean? I think, as you rightfully point out, there's obviously the photos that we've seen, with the gashes, the cuts, etc. And Celtic supporters after the game, and from what was obviously able to be smuggled into the ground or whatever weapons they were. I mean, how much truth is there that they were trying to bring these in as a stash, and was it the tifo all a bit of a bluff? I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know about you, but I've not got any mates that are in the Union Bears, and so.
You wanted to talk about this?
I do. It's an absolute madness. I think according to the reports, there was baseball bats and knives, and if what they're reporting is true, you have to just kind of ask yourself, like, what were they planning to do? Like, if they had lost that game, were they going to attack your fans and charge the stewards to get to your because the way you think about it, they're camped in that wee corner of Ibrox, so they've got them above them and to each side, so there's very little room for exits, and if it all was to kick off, they're outnumbered 20-1, and just you have to kind of look at it and just say, what the hell was going on there? And I heard the story that apparently the Union Bears were banned from getting into the ground, and then they rescinded that ban to let them back in. But that doesn't make any sense to me. If you've caught these people try to sneak in, contraband, weapons, whatever the hell else they had, why would you let them back in? Because they're probably just trying to sneak it in again. And I can guarantee you this now, like this isn't the tinfoil hat shit. Well, if that was the Green Brigade, right, and it was the opposite way about it, I guarantee they wouldn't be allowed inside.
Well, I know. I just don't know how much of it's speculation, how much of it's true, Matt. But obviously, what we can go by is the images that we've seen. I know you touched on it really well on the Judgment Day show that was aired this morning. There is undeniable. I'll let you expand on it a wee bit again today. Obviously, the images are there for all to see. That's a real concern. Now, your point's always been, and you were consistent about it again today as well, when you were talking about the actual position of where the fans are set. They're almost lambs to the slaughter in that sort of area, without being overly dramatic. I don't mean actually slaughtered, do you know what I mean? But they are in an area where they're so easy to be targeted, aren't they? You know what I mean? Because of the two sides, and then obviously when it's that sort of scenario, the hard hats has become a running joke. But obviously there's a lot of more of a serious connotation to that joke as well, where realistically you might need to start wearing hard hats.
I think the self-awareness for these BAMs and the Rangers support is unbelievable, mate. It's biblical. Union Bears put a post up, I think it must have been Saturday or Sunday night, like totally slamming the authorities and slamming the Rangers for not letting them back into the stadium with our bags to put in their tifos up, etc. it turns out they'd been caught in between with a bag of weapons, a baseball bat. I didn't read anybody saying it was a knife, so I don't know where you read that, Connor. That's a bit dangerous, man. The thought of that and them bringing in knives. I did read a baseball bat. But even the thought of them bringing in stuff, I mean, what's their intentions there? I mean, I think it was last season they played in a European game, and Moussa Dembele wasn't he playing that night? But they found like industrial sized batteries. They found empty glass bottles. They found weapons galore. You know what I mean? And amongst the Rangers support, only one intention, that was to harm people. I mean, I said this morning on the show that they put the away fans in the corner, not just Celtic fans, but any away fans seem to get that wee section, and you're wide open on both directions. Plus, the upper tiers can get a holiday as well. I mean, if it has to be a section of support that's got to be so small, put them in the top tier in the Broomham stand, put them to the far left or the far right. It's impossible for somebody to get to you there. You're out an eye shot, you're out a camera shot.
Yep.
It would suit Rangers. I dare say that maybe the TV cameras or the for the spectacle itself, I think it's better to put the away support within the camera's eye shot. But I think for the fans' safety, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that the days reports kind of opens up the club's eyes, both clubs' eyes, to how serious this situation is. I mean, they kettle the fans in at 2 hours before kick-off, maybe 2.5 hours before kick-off, to try and keep the away support as sober as possible. That just gives the away fans more time to get pissed and find more ways to get to them. I mean, anybody that's had beaten Ibrox before, they used to line up a row of police, then they just lined up and in their thousands behind them, just waiting for you to walk by for no other reason. I mean, they do that. They wait outside the main stand for the home team to come off. We do that at Celtic Park as well, but we do that more so for the home team. But they're waiting on us getting off the park just so they can abuse us and sing horrible songs and shout about Scott Brown's sister, you name it. Now, I think the day's maybe been a wake-up call. I mean, I think by the time the press pick this story up, I think it'll be reluctant, but they will pick up eventually. I think it'll be classed as an Old Firm problem. It'll be classed as a Celtic Rangers problem, not a Rangers problem. And I think the club was strong 2 years ago when they said we're no half of anything, it's no a problem. I totally buy into that. I don't think Celtic should be one cheek of the same arse. We are two different entities. We're totally different in every way, politically, how we behave after the park, how we perform on the park. We're nothing alike, and it's about time the press stop using this old-fashioned term for the club and for the two fan bases of the Old Firm. And anytime one fan base does something wrong, they blame the other. I said before, there's been like 5 Hampden riots, and they've involved one club. Every single riot is involved in one club, and that's Rangers. And yeah, it gets brought into Celtic seem to get brought into that argument every single time. And I think today, I hope the away fans that attend the next match after the split, I hope they'll get a bit more protection, but also want to see a bit more protection for our players. We can't have our players being scared to go and take a corner kick. I listened to Alan Thompson tonight on a podcast. He spoke about his first
that as well.
Talk about his first derby match, boys. So they said he took a corner. He went to take a corner and he ended up just walking away and running to the halfway line. He refused to take the corner because they were flinging potatoes at him.
Aye.
Disgusting, mate. And we're subjected every time Celtic play Rangers. It normally happens once a year. We need to listen to Mark Walters talk about how he's flung bananas at him back in the 80s. And that's every year they get this guy rolled out to tell that same story. It was bad enough it happened without being told about it every year. But all these stories seem to get swept under the carpet when it comes to Rangers. And it's I think it's about time that these things stop becoming just wee anecdotes, and we started to do something as a club, and the policing and stewarding has to improve for it.
They've still sorry for interrupting, but
No,
they've still no done anything about the fucking broken bottle that was in the goal when the last time we went to
Well, they
Ibrox.
denied it. Well, they said the cameras weren't working. There was 2 cameras seemingly that were facing and Celtic said it.
Wasn't it a VAR camera, was it?
For fuck's sake, well, it surprised me. So the AGM Celtic were asked about it, and they said they were disappointed with the answer they got. Basically, they said that the cameras that were situated to face that part of the ground weren't working or weren't switched on at the area that should have been. I don't believe that. I think there'll be cameras pointed at every section of the stadium in a derby match like that for 110 reasons. And it's like, it's one of the ones where it's been...
What were the stewards doing? What were the stewards doing?
Well,
Did they
exactly,
not-
mate. But
Did
see,
not
the thing
be there
is,
to watch for that kind of carry on?
David, I can excuse a £10 an hour steward who gets very minimum training, not missing an act like that. But I can't excuse Police Scotland, the Rangers security officers, and all the technology they've got missing that after that.
So a random fan, right, on the game on Monday managed to get a video of another fan getting pelted in the head with a bottle just randomly. Yeah, a giant stadium with cameras all over the place fails to pick up. I didn't buy that for a minute. I do not buy that for a minute. This guy cameras picked up the shards of broken glass in Joe Hart's goal. Andy Walker and Ian Crocker were sitting going on about it for 5-10 minutes whilst Joe Hart and the stewards were sweeping it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, how did it shatter? I don't know how far you can throw a piece of shattered glass, right? Depending on how far away you are. But did they throw shattered glass in, or did they throw a bottle and it shattered off the goalpost? I have no idea.
I think that's been deliberate, Connor. That's been thrown as a shard of glass, broken glass, so that it would have maximum impact. If you throw a bottle onto the grass, it's still going to break. Even if it hit the crossbar, I think it would create that much of a mess and a noise that half of the stand would be gasping when they seen it. So I think it's been thrown on the park. And Ibrox is like, if you're tall enough at Ibrox, you can reach the nets. It's very much. It's not like Celtic Park. Ibrox is very. It's like being in an indoor stadium. It is very, very close to the pitch. It's closer than Tynecastle. It's quite intimidating actually as a stadium. To be quite honest with you, but so you could easily just lob it like that from maybe behind the goals. But I think that's been totally a case of it's been broken and then thrown into the park, because if you threw that, if a ball hits the crossbar and you're sitting in the Lisbon Lions stand, you can hear it from the Jockstein stand.
Yeah,
you hear that, so you can imagine like a glass bottle smashing off of that metal. That would make a noise, and that would create such a spectacle that anybody sitting on that side of the pitch would see, in the stadium would see that. And there's been none of that reported, so that tells me that it was a bit of glass that's been brought in broken already, and whatever manner it's just been tossed onto the park for one reason, one reason only. It wasn't there in the first half when the Rangers goalkeeper was diving in that area. It was there in the second half because, in fact, what surprises me, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, I'm sure you have, the referee, the linesman's go on the pre-match and half-time, the referees go and check the nets, and they also do that, they walk across the goal line to see if there's anything untowards. They missed that. It was Joe Hart that spotted the glass. That's a worrying part as well. Some days you only see what you want to see and you don't see what you don't want to see. And as you said, Connor, we get accused of wearing tinfoil hats, but I don't think we wear enough tinfoil hats. Our eyes are sometimes focused on one side of the magic trick, like we miss the real showpiece.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. We'll move on to a wee more sort of optimistic thing. Obviously, was the announcement as well this morning that, or this afternoon, whenever it was, that Celtic's next home game between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. They've obtained a license to sell alcohol in what area of the park?
It's the west stand corner. I think it's so basically. Will I pick up on that, boys?
When you go.
So I just read the article. It's actually the second time. I think they did it in the Ross County game, which suits me. I think we should try and bring it in for the smaller games. I'm not expecting Celtic to get a full license in a 3 o'clock kickoff against Hearts. I think we should just kind of get it in, just wean it in, so that we eventually get to where we want to be. So they've got a license between 11 and 1. Anybody with a match day ticket can go in. I think there's seats inside the concourse. But there's a bar inside underneath where the boys sit, just at the corner flag. There's a bar that's got to be open too. So this gives an extra area. It's a new license we've got.
The thing is with this, it's a step in the right direction.
Correct.
Because we had a chat in the summer, quite a lot of length, and it was about, this is something that, firstly, in terms of monetisation of these games, which all Scottish clubs could be doing with extra revenue. We all know this story, right? We all know that's the case. So, firstly, it's a route to that. Secondly, I think it's a sociable thing. Thirdly, I think it's stopping treating football fans like third-class citizens, where If you go to the rugby, you're allowed a pint, things like that. I understand the pushback is, well, it's between 11 and 1. What are they meant to do between 1 and 3? That's missing the point a wee bit here. This was never going to be either open sesame or not at all. I think the fact that there's been baby steps made encourages me that it's going in the right direction. It's up to us now with these opportunities to, whilst it's there, make the most of it, impress, if that makes sense. And I don't mean impress like show off. I just mean behave yourself. Don't take it too far. Don't give them an excuse, because this is something, well, I don't believe that anyone who's buying a pint is any more likely to be a prat than someone who's already a prat, to be quite frank with you. I think a prat's a prat, right? And I don't think you go to the football and that one pint of beer is going to turn you into a lunatic all of a sudden. I don't think it works like that. But this is a step in the right direction to getting somewhere closer to football, being in the modern world. I mean, it's unthinkable that there is a sport on the basis of the sport that it is. You can't do normal weekend things that every other, working person who almost works for their wee reward at the weekend. They might be going to the football, but they might also be going for a pint after it. Why not be able to have a pint there? It just seems so backwards to me.
What I find bizarre, as Boise, is, I mean, in the 80s, one of the biggest football hooligan problems that swept Europe was the English fan base. There was riots every week. I mean, every Premier League and First Division club had an ultras group. They had a casuals group. In fact, it was actually promoted by the kit makers like Adidas. They were kind of making casual wear and promoting it to be casual wear. You know what I mean? That's how big the casual scene was and still is in England. And you could buy a drink in every stadium in the country. We had one event in 1980, I think it was, and it just seemed to have tipped everybody over the edge. You know what I mean? And you can actually count in one hand the amount of like things that have happened through alcohol inside the football stadium. Now, see if I'm going, my bus journey to Celtic Park is 20 minutes. I could fire 4 cans down my throat, right? See if I could get one pint in the stadium. Is that any worse than firing 4 quick cans of lager down your throat, Boise? I just don't understand the mathematics. I don't understand the rationale. It's like when the government in Scotland put in a pricing ban, a price cap on alcohol per unit. What they done was they forced people who only had £20 to go and buy 5 pints a night. They forced them into buying 24 cans instead. They made the alcohol problem worse.
Yep.
There's no joined up thinking at all here, mate. And I think it's for Celtic, it's a step in the right direction. And I think the club should be seen as pioneers here again. I keep on using that word, but if we're not going to get the opportunity handed to us, we've got to force the issue. And that means it's the Celtic support playing its part and behaving themselves. And I'm convinced the Celtic fans, I think the Celtic fans who would be more likely to be a bit more vocal at the Green Brigade, they all drink in the Celtic supporters bar anyway. None of them's going to go to that wee bar. Me and you, who will meet up an hour before the match, used to get to the Kerrydale suite. They've took that option off us now. That's now corporate hospitality. We can't get in there. So they've found avenues to let us into the pub. What happens? 2 working guys, 2 working women having 3 pints of lager at the end of a week and then watch a Celtic match. I'm not going to go and fling broken glass because I had 3 cans of lager. I'm going to fling broken glass because I'm an arsehole. As you said, you're already an arsehole. You've no been made into one.
No, I totally agree with that. And I just think as well, it's something that for other clubs, if we can lead the way on it and, this is a step in the right direction, you can't help but think the other clubs might be, making a heck of a good chunk of change on match days, which is so important, Connor. When you look at, we've got to be honest with the standard of the football this year in the league's not been great. I appreciate how good Celtic's been and things like that, but when you look at actually some of the possession numbers we have, the win rate that we've got and things like that, and you look at, I think Aberdeen are 4th in the league and they've lost the last 5 games, and some of the teams who've played have been pretty poor, and it's all because they've not got the funds, they've not got the revenue, and that's because we're on TV deals that people think are rubbish, but are probably the best we're going to get from an actual reliable source. It's a different debate, but they don't get great sponsorship money. We've got stadiums named after, pasta restaurants, things like that. They're that desperate for coin. We've got 2 plastic pitches in the league purely for additional revenue purposes as well. Here he comes again. And You're doing well, mate. But I think when you look at that's it, you have a wee drink, so I hope you put a brandy in that. But Connor, I just feel like with things like this, it's an extra layer to the revenue streams that right now the clubs desperately need to improve their own first 11 on the pitch, maybe their own youth academies, things like that, because the product in Scotland could definitely get a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, and this is kind of the same argument that Mark was saying is we get branded, we're like making a mockery of the Scottish game because we win everything, and it makes it boring for everybody else. I'm sorry, but like, if the reason that no one is interested in Scottish football, right, is because there's only two teams, arguably one, in the league that like to play a decent brand of football and like to have a go, and the rest of them just like to sit and park the bus. So if you're getting more money, if you are getting more money from different revenue streams, whether that's alcohol or whether it's whatever else, you can then reinvest that in the club, get more youth players in, bulk up the academy, try and have a go. 20 years ago, teams like Hibs and Hearts were getting, Champions League winners in their sides. When's that ever going to happen again? It's not, because if you're like going to join a Hibs or a Hearts, then your career trajectory is not going up; it's going down. And that, I know that's maybe that's a bit of a sly dig, but I don't care. You could join any other team, and you'd be doing a lot better than going to a Hibs or a Hearts. But these clubs need to get financial backing. I mean, think about how many teams have actual decent youth academies anymore. Scotland's hardly producing any good youth players, never mind from Celtic or Rangers. We're seeing it now, like hardly any of the young boys are getting a chance on the bench, they're not coming on. So the more investment we have, and everybody loves a pint on a game day. Everybody loves a pint. It's a culture thing in Scotland. If you could go to the pub and get a pint, you see them on Germany chucking. I know it's a bit different there. Chucking the fucking beer about and going toe, and it's a great big spectacle, and everybody loves seeing it. We could have something like that, and you could. I don't know how much you charge for a pint. Probably about £10 on Celtic, £10 a pint. But say you're only getting 5,000 people buying a pint. It's extra money to reinvest, and it helps the product of Scottish football in the long run.
At the end of the day, the point is for Celtic, this isn't going to make a great big swing in our revenue streams. And we all know what cash in the bank. I can see Brown Warrior saying that. It's not the point. The point is you want to encourage people. This is you want to encourage people to go to the game, make it a day out, spend longer around the ground. That's what you're wanting. Mm-hmm. You're wanting to become more like that. And I don't think a couple of beers stops that. Anyway, David, welcome along, mate. How you doing? You settled yet, pal? You've done more studio organisation than fucking Cliff Richard, you cunt. What's happening?
Sorry, folks. I need to get an epileptic flash sign coming up the many times I'm flashing on and off the screen now, so I do apologise for that. Aye, I'm all good. I try to invest in getting better stuff to just give a better quality content on my side, and it's just I'll just go back to the tried and tested. Back
to the gaming headset, mate. Back to the gaming headset. David, we're talking obviously about the plus sides of bringing alcohol into the stadium, then obviously the downsides of what empty alcohol, bottles and things can bring. But I think at the end of the day, what we're wanting is Scottish football as a product as a whole to improve. That's what we're saying on that. But where do you stand on alcohol in the stadium? Is it something that bothers you? Is it something that you think progressively? I don't think it's it's everyone's gift to be going into the grounds and everyone needs to go in and get caned up. But I don't see anyone having a pint at the ground, being some sort of like, that opens the floodgates. I don't think anyone has a pint at the ground was any less likely to miss the first 10 minutes of the game because having a pint 2 streets down. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. I don't see that. I mean, I'm not a massive drinker myself, which I've made quite clear on here before, but I don't see any issue of being able to have a drink at the games. I mean, they're going to have a drink. The time that you're in the stadium, how many drinks are you really going to be able to go buy during the game if you're wanting to see the game? Maybe 2, 3 at a max, depending on how big the queues are. Mm-hmm. There's no reason why they can't be giving away plastic cups. They don't need to be glass bottles. They don't need to be pint glasses. You can easily get these plastic cups for beer. You've got guys that if they're wanting to get steaming before they go to a game. They're going to do that regardless, whether it's in the grounds or whether it's like you say, it's down at the boozer down the road. It's at the end of the day, you're going to have. It's one of these. It's one of these situations. If you bring it back into the culture of football, at the being able to enjoy a drink at the game, that becomes almost what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's kind of almost
the
not
issue for
policed,
me, David, is,
not policed, but like you just kind of it just becomes a thing that you would do at the ground where people would naturally would just behave themselves. Because you're going to get the one or two folk that probably won't behave themselves, but they're just going to not behave themselves regardless. I don't think you should be tarring everybody the same brush. That they can't control how much alcohol they drink and how they behave at a game. I think if it was monitored properly, and maybe like I said, how many drinks are you really going to be able to buy while you're in the ground? You're not telling me like you go to a gig to watch. I don't know, the View. They're popular just now. They the View. They're back in the stadiums and all that.
I don't know who the hell that is.
You do, don't lie.
I don't. You made that up.
How long are you going to wait in a queue there to get a drink? Maybe and then miss the band. You'll get a few, but you're not constantly going back and forth. Or you miss the show. It's the same with the football. But like you said, a lot of folk will go into these stadiums already steaming because they didn't want to be waiting in massive queues. So it's just for
me, David, it's just a step in the right direction. Football fans being treated like fucking the same as every other
like
adults. Do you know what I mean?
mean?
I think that's what's frustrated me a lot with all this is football fans being treated with the third degree in sort of culture and life, and I've never really liked that. You were talking about the German example. I went to a Bundesliga game in Germany, in Bayern, in München. We were staying in Dusseldorf. We went to a Duisburg game. They got beat 6-0 at home of Nuremberg, right? And that was just a free-for-all with the beers. But you stood the whole game and the atmosphere was brilliant. Now, I don't know. You can't tell me these guys aren't as passionate about their team as anyone else. I mean, they're fucking mad for it. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, there was something about it that made it was surreal for us. We were like, fucking hell, imagine this was in Scotland. And I think we've been conditioned to think, but if that was in Scotland, we'd all turn into maniacs. No, we wouldn't. We'd be the exact same. Just
can you get a drink at a Premier League game? Can you buy an? Can you buy it? Right,
so
right. And English fans are notoriously known.
You can't take it to your seat though. You can do it.
Right. Okay.
You could drink it in the where you would get a hot dog sort of thing. Do you know
was that a compromise that we could be willing to look at? I don't see that. That's clearly not an issue. And England fans, let's be serious, they're notorious for causing a bit of bother when they go onto the Euros. And I know not so much, obviously, Qatar for obvious reasons. And I don't think it was that bad in Russia, but they have in the past had a reputation for their hooliganism away. And if they're trusted to be able to enjoy a drink, albeit at the catering area of a stadium, then why? I mean, it's literally it's just a border between us. What do we just act differently here with a drink in our hand and the English supporters? I don't see enough evidence to suggest that we do.
See the football fans in this country. They're the red-headed stepchild. That's what they're treated like. It's no offense, but it's ridiculous. Like you're treated like you're a child to go and sit in the naughty step as soon as you go into the game and a couple of bad words are said. I don't see why we're not trusted. It's honestly it's not fair because there's not as much trouble anymore with opposing fans. Even with the stuff we're talking about earlier, I don't see tons of people scrapping in the streets after a game between Celtic and Dundee United or St Mirren and Motherwell. We see them drunk because I think because of the lack of alcohol in the stadiums, people are encouraged now to get absolutely out their tits before they go into the game. You see it all over the place walking up London Road. If you're going, you see all the pictures, it's going on the away bus. Lads are tanning 3 bottles of bucky before they go up and stuff like that because you can't get a pint at the game. And maybe that would cause, if you're more drunk going into the game, and you know it's like you lose a bit of your inhibitions and get a wee bit wild, get a wee bit feisty. You're more likely maybe cause a wee bit of bother if you're, you know, 2 bottles of bucket deep as opposed to 2 watered down pints inside the stadium.
Yeah, fair enough. We will move on. Right, okay. I'll come to you, David, because you've no sport match tonight. So we're half an hour in, you've had 1 point. So no 1 pint, lads. 1 point. But we'll come to you first. Right.
There'll be a riot in here.
So we've seen Twitter today explode. You know, and I've got nothing bad to say about the other podcast whatsoever that was posting, you know, about Hatate. I didn't agree with the take. But that doesn't mean it needs to become pylons on Twitter that you see. Do you know what I mean? There's 2 sides to it. Twitter's a dangerous place to post Celtic views that might be remotely strong one way or the other. As long as you say, I'm really excited to see what he can do in the hoops, you'll probably get 1,000 likes. If you didn't say that, you're kind of in soapy bubble. You might be quote tweeted 1 million times. And the problem I've got is the post itself. They've obviously selected...
Catch me up, because I missed all this.
So there was a 2-minute segment taken from...
The
Huddle Breakdown. Aye. I mean,
sorry to name them.
See, he seems a good lad. I mean, there's no fucking shame in naming them at all. I couldn't
No,
remember.
I'm just because I said the name of the podcast. We're certainly not shaming them because as you said, you're trying to stick up for them.
Aye, so you know, the post itself, they've been maybe a bit naive, maybe a bit brave. I don't know, but they've posted a 2-minute clip from their podcast, David, that's basically analysing Hatate's stats and saying, is he really good enough for Celtic? And it's a bit of a stretch, in my opinion, right? Now, people are allowed to disagree with that post. I dare say they would have known people would have. That's fine. Just reply and say, completely disagree with that. I think the stats are misleading. Anyone with their eyes can see Hatate's good enough for Celtic. That is my take on it, right? Which is fine. That's where it should begin and end, though. Or the conversation can go further and they can interact with you, whatever. That's their gift to do that on their Twitter page. But once it becomes 1 million quote tweets and hundreds of abuse, you realise it was a fine reminder to what we do on here that, you know, you're walking a tightrope at times on some of these social media sites by having a view that could polarize the support. And the one thing I don't stand or defend whatsoever is once it becomes all this personal attack sort of thing. I think that's all ridiculous. I thought the point itself may be a bit ridiculous, but not in a slagging them way. I've just got a completely different perspective on it. Turns out most people do. But that doesn't mean that, you know, they need to be called every name under the sun. I don't really agree with that, David. But it was a wee sharp reminder of just how toxic Twitter can become just like that. And we've kind of had it easy the past few months.
Yeah, Twitter's a minefield, to say the least, filled with all sorts of characters, whether they're burner accounts, you know, you've got a plenty of yourself, I hear Boise. I tend to just. So what was it? Did they put a question out to say, is Hatate good enough for Celtic?
No, it's a clip from the podcast.
Although there was a big banner in the top of the video saying, is Hatate good enough in capital letters?
Right.
So,
I feel like people have probably just seen that and they went, fucking.
Right. So they were. So from what I've heard from there and what you're saying, Conor, is that they've put out their opinion, and this is the start. This is the start, guys.
Yeah.
So they've looked at the statistics of, I'm guessing, since Hatate arrived at Celtic and they're trying to ask the question or put the question out there: is Hatate good enough? Now, for me, right away, they've just created content there, but they're the headline grabbing to get you to engage with their content. However, I think maybe they've been a bit naive in maybe the wording that they've used. Does that justify the pylon? Absolutely not. I think you've got to be clever about what you're doing. You know, it sounds like they know what they're doing there. They've headline grabbed, and it's maybe, you know, they've put their hands too close to the stove and they've got burnt a little bit too much. And from what you're saying, they've taken it down or something.
They took it down, but I mean, that's when you know if they've taken it down. It's not because there's banter involved, David. That's because it's obviously
it's becoming personal. Right? You know what I mean? The problem with Twitter is this is the thing with social media, right? Social media has given people this idea that that there's some sort of like their opinion really matters that much. Your opinion doesn't matter that much, right? That you feel that you can go online and start telling people that they're this thing and the next thing, and they're, you know, to go and do this and go and do that and go and f yourself, this kind of not like what they've done is they've put out an opinion for the content for their viewers to watch and engage with, right? Nobody's forcing you to watch that, right?
No.
If you're willing to go on and retweet and not actually watch the content that's been put out there, you go and do yourself a favour and actually go and watch that, and then give an actual decent response that's actually maybe engaging, and you know you could argue and say to them,
if you're not willing to do that.
If all you're going to do is slag off somebody's appearance, or you know what they do for a living, or where they live, or whatever, like, then I don't see what do you bring to social media? Like, I don't see why you're even on it. Like, if that's all you're clearly Celtic fans that have an opinion on a player or a manager or tactics or substitutes or whatever. Give us your viewpoint in a compelling way that we can engage with, like that people can engage with. Don't just start slagging them, because what is that? You obviously don't have that much of an argument to give back if that's all you can come up with is slagging off the boy. I don't know, his appearance or whatever. This he's using his statistics to give, whether it's an opinion or just throwing out a grenade and or throwing out a line and see what bites.
Yeah.
Right. But if he's giving out an actual, like, these are the stats that I like to use to back up my opinion. Sorry, mate.
So you're right. He's backed it up. His opinion, I think, is wrong. I think the headline's misleading.
You can't go to court, Mark, the judge. You can't go to court, right, and give a statement without backing it up. The jury won't listen. It's exactly, you go to a court of law and you put in a statement, and the defence says, "Aye, but you're a fucking wee fanny." Right? Maybe I am, but at least I can back up my opinion with statistics.
Well, this is it, David.
But you can maybe skew to fit your narrative, but at least they can kind of use it. But do I agree with the question? Is Hatate good enough to play for Celtic? Aye, fucking is, right? End of story. That's, you know,
I agree with that.
I think it was worse.
Story.
I think it was worse than the replies. I think the replies. I mean, the statement itself. I mean, the headline is ridiculous. Of course, it is. I mean, to me, if he's not player of the year this season, there's something wrong with this country. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's had the odd bad game, but he's not perfect. He's phenomenal. The guy is amazing. But I've seen folks saying he was a boss Real Madrid and all the rest of it. I mean, that's worse than asking a question. I mean, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and that's a true saying. You can mould stats. I mean, the NHS could probably mould stats to say their waiting times aren't as bad as what they were in 1804 or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's true. As you said, Twitter's a minefield. And sorry for interrupting you, David. I think Twitter's a minefield. And do you know something?
I tend to stay clear up because of that, Mark. I can't really bother dealing with it.
Mate. You put a tweet out and it's sorry, mate. You put a tweet out and it's your opinion, right? Doesn't mean that you can engage with somebody. You can engage with Twitter in general or Facebook in general without it being like, I don't know, some sort of opening for people to jump and tap you. I mean, this podcast, I did like a post. Quite honestly, you know what? If it was me, I would have reposted it. I wouldn't have backed down with it. I would have actually reposted it. I mean, these guys have obviously did it because they're just not ready for the backlash. I would have put it every day for a month. So I would have probably bought a t-shirt and put all the comments on it. It wouldn't have bothered me one iota. I wouldn't care if I get 50,000 I get about 100 notifications a day. I mean, on Twitter, so I don't need any more backlash. Minimum, God's sake. I mean, one day I woke up to 9,000 profile searches, remember, boys? But it doesn't bother me one bit. But these guys maybe aren't used to it. I think these guys, I mean, I used to watch and these guys did a good job. One of them's a risk analyst. That's his profession. That's his job. So he doesn't see. He looks at figures and stats and breaks them into. And you know, that's something that people like us probably can't understand. So looking at things from a total statistic point of view, you could probably back up that argument. But your eyes tell you the truth. I think as a football fan, you know when a player's off form with your eyes. You don't need somebody to analyse it at half time or full time and tell you they're dropping into the wrong positions, they're getting turned easy, they're out of position, they're a poor finisher. I think anybody that watches football enough will tell you when a player's no doing it on the park. Rio Hatate for me has been phenomenal. I mean, his levels he's hit this season weren't what I was expecting. The guy's just elevated himself to a new level.
Well, here's a perfect example, Mark. So me and you, we've got a wee thing going about Maeda, right? And the stat that I saw the other day was he's contributed 9 goals and assists out of, I think, 18 games. Now, when you look at that number, you think, aye, that's good. But from what you've seen on your eyes, personally for yourself, obviously up till the last few games, hasn't been good enough. Now, that's when statistics can start to,
muddy the
skew.
Water.
Yeah, it's a muddy water. I can sit and look at apparently I got a stat said to me earlier, and then it got quickly deleted off my pal. So I don't know if he got it wrong or not. But all he messaged me saying was apparently now somebody can correct my mate's stat if it was wrong. But apparently Kyle only had 8 touches against them on Monday. Only 8.
Oh, that's more than I thought. I've seen matches. There was a match that he got subbed off, and I think he had 0 touches of the ball, or he had 1 touch, and it was for an offside move. Kyogo's involvement is what he does after the ball. He on the ball, and it's no a slagging match on Kyogo. I mean, come on, but on the ball he does very, very little.
Very little. It's almost anonymous.
Nobody could deny that. Nobody could deny that. Maeda's different because Maeda's. If you looked at Maeda, you would look at his work rate, the areas of the park that he shuts down, how he harasses defences. If you looked at his on the ball stuff, you would say the stuff that I say. You say looks like he's taking a balloon about, you know what I mean? And see his last 3 or 4 games, he's away. As I said, he's away at a wedding kicking a balloon. It's like you look at Moy. Moy's came into my vision now. I think Moy is a serious contender for a jersey now at Celtic. You asked me 5 weeks ago, I'd have laughed in your face. His form has went up, as Mattarelli's form went down. And do you know, that's the thing about Twitter. I'll just get back to it very quickly. I mean, I made 3 or 4 points posts pre-match against Rangers. Interesting, see when you make your comments on a Friday night and a Saturday rather than a Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday, you're putting your neck out there rather than referring to stuff that's already happened. So I think people should remember that there's people that put their thoughts out before the game starts. They're the ones who really have an opinion on football. Anyway.
Another stat that blew my mind a wee bit was O'Reilly's had 42 shots on goal and scored 0 goals.
He's the only person that's scored.
He's got the most shots in the league and he's not scored once.
But the thing is, as I was going to say, so before just dropping me just quickly, the points I was making is we shouldn't have started Moy. We shouldn't have started O'Reilly. We should have started Moy.
Yeah,
that's turned into a fact now on social media that should have happened. We should have started Forrest, although there was people backing it up before the match. That's turned into another fact. And then what's getting flung at me, just for talking for me here, is the fact that I made a comment 2 days before the game about Maeda starting, and I was actually in response, just quickly, I was in response to something because somebody I seen, I didn't tag them in it, but they wrote on it that Twitter that they would drop, they would certainly not play Jota in front of Maeda, and I thought that was just ridiculous. I think the two can play together, but I don't think even if they're watching Maeda score the other day, I still want to drop Jota for Maeda.
Yeah,
and I was just responding to that without tagging the person. And
if you put 2 videos side by side of what Maeda does and what Jota does are completely different. But most people, if you were to go right, who would you pick to start?
Well, David,
9 times out of 10, most people are going.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, you're going to pick Jota, aren't you?
We'll come to you, Connor. Has the position switch affected O'Reilly? Because obviously he had a spell, Connor, where he was playing in the Callum McGregor role while he was out. And I was actually quite impressed by how he adapted to that. But since he's moved back forward, it seems to be he's now the player. There's always one at some point, right, who seems to be in the firing line for not being at the races at certain moments in time. And we kind of play past the parcel with which Celtic player that is. Right now, with he's got the parcel, right? O'Reilly's the guy who needs dropped, needs rested, yada yada. And his form has dipped. Do you think he has maybe struggled to adapt back from being playing that slightly deeper role, that Callum McGregor role, if you like? It's not quite a number 6, but that Callum McGregor role to then moving further forward?
Nah, I don't really buy that. Yeah, I feel like if you're, you've been doing a job that you've been doing for years and years and years, and then for like a month you go and do something else, then you shouldn't then go back to doing your normal job and not be good at it. I don't buy that at all. I just feel like O'Reilly's performance have dipped. I don't know why. There's also rumours of like a virus going about the camp, and however long that's been going on for, I have no idea. Could have been a couple of weeks, could have been a couple of days. It's affected other players as well. I think Jota's performances haven't been the best over the past few weeks. I don't think he's been looking great. He's been looking sharp. O'Reilly though, he does. I don't know what it was. I think the game against Rangers there was the worst I've seen him in a long time. He was, he was losing the ball. He wasn't confident. He's usually one to try and like the play and make, killer pass, defense splitting passes forward, and he wasn't really doing that. So I don't know if maybe he's feeling under a bit of pressure because Moy is, getting plaudits, and maybe he's, very aware of that, and it's playing on his mind. Because football, as much as it is a physical game, I think it's a psychological game as well. And when you're all in a dressing room together and you're seeing, Aaron Moy was the hero against Hibs, scoring 2 goals. He's getting plaudits in the media. He's been great. He's got a fucking Team of the Week card on FIFA and that now. It's just, that could be playing on this lad's mind. And bearing in mind, he's went from playing League One over a year ago, training in his local park to try and get himself fit, to then playing for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And he settled in nicely, but, it's a big jump, and, maybe all the adrenaline for that area at the start of the season, got him through, and maybe now it's maybe affecting him in a way. We have no idea. But if it was for me, if I had to make a decision right now, I would drop him and I'd start Moy, and I'd let him regain his confidence and regain a bit, work harder to try and get back in the team and prove to the manager why he should be starting every week again. Because, there should be no nailed on starters in the Celtic team. There shouldn't be. I don't think there is with Ange either. I think he really does that. We've seen that with his lineup on Monday. But, every player should be going into training every single day, whether you're Callum McGregor, Joe Hart, Matt or the Rio Hattati, whoever, or you're Arthur Johnson, the lumberjack who just came in the door. Whether you should be training your bollocks off every single day to prove to the manager that you should be starting. And I don't care if you're the captain, I don't care if you're, one of the boys in the youth, who's just joining first team training for the first time that week. And I feel like people and players maybe get a bit too confident and a bit too comfortable. And I feel like maybe O'Reilly's maybe slipped into that just a wee bit.
Aye. I mean, I think, you flip it and you go, if this was a Celtic youth player coming through at 21 years old, who'd played the amount of games that he has, I think it would be cutting him a hell of a lot of slack here. In fact, I happen to think if it was a Celtic youth player, he wouldn't be entrusted with that amount of games, no matter how well he'd start. I think there's very rare exceptions to that rule. I think if you look at the integration of someone like Sean Maloney back in the day, it took him 2-3 years around the first team before he became. In fact, it took till Strachan came in before he became a first team regular. So different examples. Michael McDonald very quickly says, "Is that a Cardi Boyce's wearing? What's going on with the clobber? It's as if he's leaving trying." It's an Adidas Cardi, mate. I thought you'd appreciate it. Fucking hell. But see the 3 stripes? Just for you, Michael. But David, when we actually think about it sometimes, with Matt O'Reilly, is it easy to forget, because of the standards he's set, the form that he's been in, over the piece for Celtic, the big games that he's played in, and he's done very well, handled very well. Is it easy to forget this boy's a kid? He's 21 years old, and maybe it's time to go, take him out the firing line. But it's not because he's suddenly became shite or anything like that. It's just he's played a hell of a lot of football for a guy his age.
I mean, he's been getting touted to being one of the top players in the upcoming youth players for a long, long time, and the boy's been playing out his skin for, as far as I'm aware, for a good couple of seasons now. I mean, you could argue that he's probably due a bit of a poor patch. I mean, form's temporary, class is permanent, as they say. And I mean, I got to disagree with you, Connor. I don't know what you're like, but if I take a couple of weeks off doing my job. It takes me a couple of weeks to get back in the swing of things, you know. And this guy was playing in a sort of number 8 role, gets asked to go and play in an unfamiliar position for how many weeks, and then we take a month off for the World Cup to then jump straight back into, right, you're going back to doing what you're doing before. I think, fuck it, right, okay. I mean, how many games are we in? I mean, and I want to give the guy, you know, he said he's only 21. You got to take that into consideration. We always try to say, you know, well, Abada's only 20. You know, you got to give him a bit of slack. You know, he's still young and blah, blah, blah. The same goes for a player like O'Reilly. However, you could say he's one of these players that almost plays beyond his years. You know, the way he plays. So you could, like, it is very easy to forget how young he is because of the maturity he's shown on the pitch. But as for, I got a question his mentality, if it's going to be a case, Moyes doing really well, so I'm a bit.
don't think it's that.
No, I don't think it's going to be that. And if it is, I would question his mentality because, you know, if a player like Moy, who has had the longevity in the game of playing in the Premier League, he bossed the Championship, he's been in the Australian side for a long time. You're starting to see, now that he's up to speed, we're starting to see the player that, you know, maybe we should have maybe respected a bit more when he signed. I was guilty of that. Just going to put that out there. You know, a player like O'Reilly should be learning from that. You know, if a player like that is now shining as well as he is, then you should shine with them. Don't shrink because this player is starting to outshine you. You shine with them. You'll learn. And if you're not going to do that at Celtic, then maybe that's the whole, is he Celtic class? I think he is, by the way. I think he's just, if I'm brutally honest, I think he's just going through a little bit of poor form and maybe a little lack of confidence. He bangs in a goal for us.
Yeah.
Watch that change.
We're going to move on to another point with Stubbsy's horse. I'm going to move on, Connor, because we're trying to get through a few of the points because, as always, when it's approaching the hour, suddenly we start getting loads of comments coming in because that's just what they do. They just want to keep us here longer. Mark Kearney, which of our January signings are we most excited about? I think it's a brilliant question for Stubbsy's horse, and I'll tell you why, because we've seen the debut of Alistair Johnston. We've all been extremely excited by that. I thought it was a really, really assured performance from him, and I can't wait to see more. We've got the J-League Player of the Year, the current J-League Player of the Year. Fucking hell, we've seen the standard of the boys we've got in so far for that league, so I think there's plenty of reason to be excited about that one. And already we've seen the elevation of Kobayashi onto the substitutes bench, already ahead of Jens, which would suggest he's already in the pecking order ahead of him, which means Ange's looking at him as someone to be impacting this first team, not a project player or anything like that.
And he knows it, by the way.
So
Jens knows it, by the way.
Jens knows it. Well, I don't know. But, you know, which of our January signings are you most excited about, Mark?
I think the Iwata and Kobayashi, I'm looking forward to seeing them play, but you couldn't have watched that debut for Johnston and not be impressed with that young boy. I mean, there was a clip late on in the match that I picked up on the time. He ran about 60, 70 yards and brushed the attacker off the ball. He just looked like a bag of energy. He just looked like his enthusiasm for the sport is just so high. I think this guy could be a replacement for Juranovic. I think he's got to step into number one now. I think he's got to be the first choice right back, and I think he's maybe the first choice right back we've been crying out for. We all know my feelings on that in Alston, boys, but I think this guy just looks like, albeit he's only played his debut, but to go to Ibrox, powder keg environment and show up so well, I think you've got to be excited. Now, Awa and Kobayashi, they might come in and prove me wrong here, but this guy just looks like he's going to fit into this first 11. I think you spoke about this on last night's show, and I agreed with you. I don't think we've signed anybody yet that's going to be a first 11 player for last season. I think Haksabanovic is going to threaten eventually. Yep. But this boy's going to step into the team. I think he's going to be a really exciting player for Celtic. So I'm really excited about seeing that guy play, and let's give this guy 15 games and you watch him go.
Yeah, Connor, you look at the three players and, there's a good argument for them all, though, because Kobayashi's came in and he's actually a natural left-sided centre-half, which undeniably has been something that's maybe been, kind of gets missed a few times when you talk about Starfelt. That can be when you're not as natural on the ball as, the rest of the 11 on the park, and then you're playing on the left-hand side of a centre-back partnership. That ain't ideal for him, and sometimes he can probably look even more awkward and gangly in the ball that that even he intends to. I wonder if, Kobayashi could be, the one that's just going under the radar right now that gives us that perfect balance at the back. But again, you look at the Iwata, or Iwata, I don't know how to pronounce it. But, you look at him signing for the J League as Player of the Year, already a Japan international, and you go, he's got a bit of hype about him. And as I say, the impact already. There's form there for guys for that league to come in and do well. So the same applies to Kobayashi in that instinct. And obviously the Johnston one, we've got recent memory bias on, but solid foundations on what was a brilliant display on Monday.
I obviously I think I said a couple of weeks ago when we signed him, Johnson. I said I think I put in the group chat, maybe I said it on here. I said the first time he chops down a player whenever he plays against him, when he nicknamed him the Lumberjack. And he did that a couple of times on Monday, so I think I'll be coining that. He was really, really good. He's got a burst of pace. He's really strong in the physical, and he made that fake hard man John Lundstrom look like a wee bitch. So I really like him already. Kobayashi comes with this bit of pedigree. So does Holy Iwata, but. It's honestly it's such a weird mindset being in. We had all these lads signed before the January window even opened, and that's just such a weird place to be in. And I'm all for it. Being prepared, getting these boys in, getting them used to the system, and that it's great because you're not having to do things when you're in the swing of the season. Obviously I think we will make more signings in January, but we've got 3 lads here who have been training, who came in, trained a wee bit, more so Kobayashi and Johnson, who I would honestly, if against Kilmarnock, if Ange said, right, Carl Starfield, you're dropped, sticking Kobayashi in, I'd be like, on you go. I have no problem with that whatsoever, because I'm really excited to see what these boys can do, and especially if he is, a left-sided defender, and he is probably going to be a bit more comfortable with the ball at his feet. That is something like Starfield for me is a good defender. He's not great with the ball at his feet. He does look very gangly. He does look very awkward. He does, miscue passes. Maybe that's not his fault because he's not playing his natural position. But if you can bring a player in who is going to challenge Starfield to bring, for him to improve his game even further, because I don't think Jens has done that. Jens was I'd say more of a means to an end when Starfield got that injury when he was playing with Sweden. He came in, he did okay, scored a couple of goals and looked relatively solid, but he was shown wanting, in the Champions League and in Europe. So I think with well, obviously we can see that Kobayashi is more Ange's style, and I think that's it's something to be excited about, and I'm all for it.
Definitely. Our very own Liam Greenlaw comes in, the punk duck, warlord David, and he says, do you think the lack of playing time for some players could start to create disharmony in the squad? I mean, from my point of view on that one, David, I think we've seen the good and the bad of that. We've seen Tony Ralston absolutely take his cell to levels we weren't all, let's be honest, sure he could get to. And that is undeniably because the competition with him and Juranovic was a fascinating battle last season, where he really did split the Celtic support as to who should be getting, the regular jersey there. We've also seen the bad of it, though, where the body language of a Giakoumakis, who we don't feel has maybe been given as fair a crack of the whip as other players that are competing for a jersey. And then you're looking at him now and going, is he heading for pastures new? Midtjylland links right now, and that's a bit of a shame if that one's turned sour. What do you make of Liam's point?
Hard one, because yes, it probably could cause disharmony. We've kind of, like you said, we've maybe seen it a little bit. I mean, we're completely speculating, but we've maybe seen it with Giakoumakis there. But I mean, I think these boys that Ange's brought in, not just obviously just in that January window there, but over the course of him being our manager, I think he's made it pretty clear. Like, look, I'm creating a squad, not a team. Yeah. And I want you to be you're going to be a part of this squad. There's going to be opportunities for you to play. Of course, you have to show me in the training that you can be trusted. And like the lack of playing time that you might be seeing for like the likes of Barnaby has got us questioning, certainly Mark questioning if he is going to be good enough for Celtic. We've got these guys getting signing on on a 5-year deal. Maybe it's a case of like you just need to be patient. Your time will come. There will be opportunities for you. So I like to think the guys have signed on knowing that. Whether they've got the patience for it is another one. Disharmony is a strong word to use. I think that we've got a really tight knit group of players, but there's going to be only so long before players are going to start to go, right, come on, where's my opportunity here? It's going to be interesting with the one we start. Like Conor, you're saying there, like Kobayashi could come straight in for Starfelt, and we probably wouldn't be too not bothered about it, because we are, obviously, we're always excited to see a new player play. I wouldn't be too keen to see Starfelt just drop straight at the team, though. I mean, I don't know if the stat is still there that if we those two playing together, I've still got the best defensive partnership in the league. I've even lost a game in 90 minutes in domestically for them two. It's hard to drop a player that's part of that kind of partnership. I think Starfelt's a great player, great defender. The boy's got a magnet on his head. He wins almost everything. I think he loves attacking a ball in the air. I like to see him attack the ball in the air more in the opposition box at corners, mind you. But first and foremost, he gets rid of that ball. Could he be better at the ball at his feet? Yes, he could be. But then you got to take into consideration that he is a right-sided player playing on the left side. When Carter Vickers was out injured, Starfelt moved into that position, and he looked a lot more comfortable on the ball. As good as Carter Vickers, no, but I think he's certainly earned his shirt. I mean, he obviously earned his shirt enough to walk straight back in the team when he was fit to do so, and I think that's why you're seeing Jens is probably we'll not see much of Jens, I don't think, for the rest of the season if Kobayashi and Starfelt are fit.
Glasgow CSC comes in, Mark, and he's saying we need to trim the squad. I think whilst we're talking about the healthy competition here, I do think that ruthless streak needs to be there as well, where we go, right, okay, it's great having a big squad, but there's no point in it being bloated. There's no point in having a million bodies there, do you know what I mean? Just because they're all good players. You then need to decide between good and in my plans. Do you know what I mean? And that's when toughest decisions are made. But obviously, with the need to trim the squad, is there any sort of obvious ones you're thinking of that could be trimmed tomorrow or in this window? And, you know, tomorrow's a bit hypothetical, but in this window that Celtic could actually trim out the squad and us not be weakened in the slightest?
I think Welsh could go.
Yep.
I think McManus, God, McCarthy. God, my mind's a way back. I'm just seeing that night jumper blanket corner there, and it's. But no, I think McManus. I think McCarthy, and I think Welsh could go. I think when they impact the squad, I think Lawal should go out on loan. I think who else? Obogard, he's away. It seems like he's away. There's a few players that could leave. I think there's a lot of. Sorry? Ideguchi, I think he's off. I think he's just waiting on Japan to relax the COVID rules, I think, mate, and he's off ski. To be honest with you, I think he's going back there. Or is it China? I don't know. He's away anyway. That's one thing for sure. I think there is it's a tough job keeping a squad busy, squad happy, because you see even the best squads, the best managers, the best teams. The problem is when you've got a pool of players that are good, you can't actually. I know. I own fucking loan to the moon. No bring them back. If anybody listening to Spotify or anything, that somebody's saying we should loan Peter Lawwell out, and I think we should maybe fucking take him out. But no, I think for a meal, just to clarify that. No, I think
food poisoning.
No, not at all. I'm not condoning any sort of violence, but email me if you want any information how to do it. No, I think to keep a squad happy is so difficult, because if you listen to anybody that's been to players' speaker nights and they talk about back in the day and they'll talk about chapping the manager's door and asking for playing time, I think it happens week in, week out. And every football club, there'll be players that are watching first team regulars getting game time that they feel like they're form strapped. There's nothing more disheartening. I think disheartening is a word that is quite suitable here. If I was working my arse off every week and I was seeing, for instance, an O'Reilly who's reached very high levels, if I seen his form dip and I know that I was capable of producing there. I'd be disheartened if I looked at a team sheet on a Saturday morning and I was on the bench every week. That'd be disheartening. But what it does is it puts a fire in your belly. It makes you work harder, makes you run faster. It makes you want to get the manager's attention more than it already is. But to answer your question very quickly, boys, I do think there's maybe about half dozen players that we could just chop them order and it wouldn't impact the squad. I think the recruitment, you touched on it last night, the recruitment in that window just previous there was squad padding, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think Haksabanovic, I think, is the only one that's been a success so far. I mean, I'm not talking about the January ones, we're talking about the last.
And Moy.
And I think Moy's come on to a game, boys, but I think even if he left tomorrow, you would still say, meh. You would, let's be honest. Although he's picked up his form, and I think maybe the World Cup's been good for that guy. Maybe he's got a wee bit of confidence that because he's come into a team and he's not been up to speed and his confidence is but he's played well in the World Cup. He's come back a better player in my opinion. But I think the good thing about Celtic is they've got a lot of players who, as fans, we don't mind losing. But the bad thing about that is a lot of them probably on contracts they're not going to get elsewhere. And to persuade a guy owing 10 grand a week to cut his ties, make a settlement and go for a club owing 6 grand a week is more tricky than what it sounds just to the us sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
I think a perfect example. Sorry, mate. I'm just saying a perfect example. I've got the Man City Chelsea game on the back end there, and just a perfect example. Is it maybe something that we as fans need to learn to also maybe be patient with the new signs that are coming in? I mean, Jack Grealish signed for Man City for £100 million a season ago, and he's only now really getting it as a starter. His form's not great, by the way, but he's getting a starter at the expense of Raheem Sterling. Eventually moved on. It's like they brought Grealish in to almost compete with Sterling in that position. No one fine well, we've just signed a £100 million player. He's going to eventually be a starter. We then have to work. We have to find somewhere for like Sterling, a guy that's a starter for England every week, one of City's best players for a long time, and they've shifted him out to a league rival. Is that something that is that a model that we should maybe be considering as fans to go look, signing a player that we know is going to be good, but we've also got a very good player already in that position.
I think that's the thing, David. I think that's the thing. See Man City. I think they can talk to a player and give them very high wages, but they can also give them like a plan in which they could have said to Jack Grealish, listen, this is Man City, mate, and £100 million is like Celtic spending £3 million to them or £5 million. It's a lot of money, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
but
totally,
they could say, listen, short term you're going to be challenging for a place, but you're going to have to prove every week before you can not just get out of the way. Celtic, I don't think can buy like for like. I think the Juranovic replacement is very interesting. I feel like we've used that revolving door, but we've brought in somebody I think who's younger, hungrier, faster, sharper, and even better. I think on one performance. It doesn't happen all the time. But seeing you get a lot of money like Chelsea, Man City, I think you can bring in a £15-20 million player, see a lot of potential, challenge him to be a better player within 18 months, promise him game time eventually, and see if you're on good money at Man City and you're young or you're hitting almost your peak years, you're more happy, I think, or it could be sold easier to you for sitting on the bench for 15 games a season, knowing that if you perform at the level that you need to be at this club, then a chance is coming.
Connor, it's not always as easy as that, though, is it? Because we've seen, obviously, with the Giakoumakis episode right now, that despite the fact he's been involved probably in most games he's been available for, if he's not getting the starts and he's not getting maybe as many minutes as a sub, it can still cause unrest. For a guy who's lauded by the fans, he'll be on good money. He'll never have played in the Champions League before. He'll never have played in that front of that many fans before. He'll never have played for a club as big as Celtic before. Yet, sometimes it doesn't always end up that way. That the challenging thing for a first team place can get difficult. I just think right now the competition for places is very healthy, but I think we've been right at times throughout the season to also question what the competition is based on, Connor, and if it's fair competition for every position, which I'm not entirely sure it's always been in the case of the likes of Kyogo and Giacomakis.
No, I mean, you're saying he's on good money, but he's on good enough money for a player who last season was the joint top goal scorer in the league, and I think without him, we would not have, won the league last year, obviously, because he dragged us over the line when Kyogo was out injured. So, I mean, he was promised better wages. I think I've seen it. I don't know how accurate it is, but apparently he's only on like 12 grand a week or something like that. I think Kyogo's maybe on near enough 20. I think McGregor's the highest paid player at the club, obviously. He's on about 30. Joe Hart, I'd imagine, commands like a decent wage.
Go on, tell us how much he's on as well. Go on.
You're stealing my gig, mate. I might tell. What are you doing?
So I don't blame him for, not being very happy. I wouldn't be either if I was, if I'd put in, an absolutely massive shift last season and was, loved by the fans. It was promised more, and if the only reason he wouldn't be happy with the deal, right? Because you have to come to some sort of arrangement saying, I'd want this much extra by this point if I stick to these KPIs, key point indicators, whatever, these goals. And I feel like this all coincides with Peter Lawwell come back into the club. They've maybe tried to backtrack on that, and they maybe tried to not offer him as much, saying, but you're not getting enough game time, you're not scoring enough goals, and maybe just slow that down a wee bit. That absolutely reeks of Peter Lawwell to me. And, it's really annoying because you're seeing him reports. I don't think it's happening, but I'm going to fucking Michelin, who probably couldn't even afford to give him decent wage. I don't even think they can afford to buy him off us. I think the fee getting tighter around is like 6 million or something, but he's worth. I personally think he's worth double that already, and it's oh my god, it's bizarre. I don't think he's got enough, been given a fair crack of the whip this season. Although it has been coming on recently. Yes, it's only been for 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but I think it has to, if he's wanting to really, get himself back onto the first team and starting of the week, he's going to need. I know you're only getting a certain amount of time to impact games, but you're going to need to just fucking nut up and just go and just take it by the balls.
I disagree with that. He scored 2 goals and been dropped, Connor. He scored a double and was dropped the next game. So I don't know what more. I think he's probably feeling he's banged his head against a brick wall when it comes to getting that fair competition that I'm referring to. Brown Warrior, though, he's kind of turned, and I'm kind of with Brown Warrior on this. And I love Giacomakis. He's a cult hero. He's someone we christened Chaos on the bus, and it was great fun. And now I just feel we're in a situation where, see, for whatever reason, whether we like this or not, lads, right? Ange has made his mind up. That's not his boy, right? That is not his man up top. Because you know that by the minutes. You look how many goals scored. It doesn't add up why he's not in the team, certainly to us. But it's the manager's gift to go, do you know what? The way I want to play, I don't feel it's cohesive when he's in the team. And that's his eyes, and that is what he is paid to do, right? That doesn't mean we can't have a different opinion on it. But what I'm trying to say is, I've maybe came round to the idea that there's no point in banging a drum for a player to be getting game time if it ain't on the table. It's not going to be happening. He's going to get his 10, 12 minutes here. It's not constructive for anyone to have a guy who's maybe looking a wee bit disheartened, a bit pissed off, for want of a better phrase. Do you know what I mean? When he's coming on the park, because that can then sort of spread as well. Is that what I need to do to get a move out of here? Things like that. And if for whatever reason Andrew's decided that's not the guy he wants up top, maybe we need to just kind of make peace with it and go, maybe there will be someone who'll come in and get a fairer crack of the whip in terms of competing with Kyogo for a jersey. Because at the end of the day, if it is someone Ange sees as more part of the plan, part of the project, then I'm okay with that, I suppose, when it comes to the fact that it's Ange's decision to do that. And it almost frustrates me more getting wound up about Giacomakis' lack of minutes than actually going, do you know what? He's made his call. Might not like it, but kind of got to back him on it as well. It's a difficult one. David, where are you on that?
Kind of a Brown Warrior. The game's over. I'm with Brown Warrior, if I'm being honest. I've always said I've always preferred Kyogo ahead of Giakoumakis. I understand the argument that Giakoumakis' goal to game ratio is very good. But I've always been under the impression, I think I said it on here before, I'm starting to think that Giakoumakis was a short-term plan to make some extra money, to flip him. We've got a player that should have sold for 12 million, we got for 2. He done a good job for half a season, and then and I'm going to sell him on for a decent fee and get another player in. Ange pretty much alluded to that in the AGM about the whole. I know I'm paraphrasing, but don't cling on to your heroes for too long.
Yeah.
I think he falls under that umbrella, and at the end of the day, man, Giakoumakis had a purple patch at the right time, and he banged in a bunch of goals in the Dutch league. Half of them were penalties, which is mental to think when we see the penalties he's missed for us. And then he had had an excellent second half of the season for us last year. I don't believe for a second, though, he would have got that if Kyogo had stayed fit. I think the game time would have been exactly the same as you've ever seen this season as it was last season. I think if Kyogo had stayed fit, I think we'd have seen the exact same as what we're seeing now. Kyogo's his boy, clearly. It's very difficult to drop a player. Yes, he misses a ton of chances, but he scores in almost every game. At the end of the day, he's still on the score sheet, and that's all I'm just saying. Sorry.
You can't count just on him, though, David.
Of course you can't.
You can't just have one. It's just madness because he does pick up injuries.
Totally. And unfortunately, that's the role that Giakoumakis has been given, and he got his chance to be the main man when Kyogo wasn't fit. But it's fairly obvious that Kyogo, as soon as he was fit again, was going to be walking straight back into that number one striking position. Yes, you do need another striker, but I agreed. If he does decide that he wants out and Ange is happy for him to go, there's certainly other strikers out there that maybe Ange feels like I'll get the same amount of goals to game, hopefully the same goals per game ratio, but has maybe a better touch, maybe does the same sort of thing as maybe Kyogo does in terms of his spatial awareness, but we want that more physical, and maybe that's what this Korean lad is going to do. But it's a difficult, because I don't want to see Giakoumakis leave. I'd like to keep him. You always should have a good backup, but you could argue in the form that he's shown in the last season and a half, he's too good to be a backup. However, Kyogo is also, you could argue Kyogo's the same. And I know, he misses hundreds of chances, but he's not going to give him right. He's not. So does lots and lots of strikers missed hundreds of chances. But at the end of the day, Ange will say, but he still scored today. Yeah. So that almost justifies. That's why everybody's sitting there kind of smug at Mark because Maeda scored, because Mark obviously said that you would pick Jota. Well, Maeda scored today, so everybody's smug about it, and that's what Ange will be like as well. Well, I pick him every week and he scores. So what is there more to say about it? That's the way he looks at it. That's the argument. I'm not saying it's the correct argument about the Maeda thing, Mark, but that's what people are throwing at you because he scored. So if you imagine he's scoring every week, that's just going to be the guys. That's going to be the manager's thoughts on it. Oh, I'm picking him and he's scoring, so why would I drop him? I mean, and Giakoumakis is getting the raw end of the deal there.
But at the same time, Kyogo wasn't always scoring. This is what it comes down to. The point is recency form that we're looking at right now. And yes, Kyogo scored every week since the World Cup break. Before that, it ain't the case. And that's what people, I think, have been quite quick to forget. I know Kyogo's the top scorer, etc. I get all that. But there was weeks where, as I'll go back to, Giakoumakis scores a double, he's out the team. Kyogo went 4 games without a goal? Started all 4 in a row.
I think he scored one game in October, one game in November, and none in December. I think he scored in one game and scored in 2 games in like 3 calendar months or something like that. I think
he did score in December.
Was that?
He did score in December. He scored on Christmas Eve.
Oh, sorry. I think I seen a wee stat that he only scored in one game in October and one game in November.
I was a bit spread.
December, so
just play them both, Ange, for fuck's sake.
Well, funnily enough, we played them both and we scored our goal. We will round it up there, lads. Thank you very much for joining me on the T.N.F. Thanks to the 183 who are watching live on a Thursday night at 10:30. We really, really appreciate it. Do smash that like button if you haven't already. If you've not subscribed already, hit it. It's totally free. If you want to share it and all that, carry on. That's great too. Hi, lads. Up the bus. I'll see you all there. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.